everybody's working for Gillespie now. He's got Matt Moran. He's got Michael Kogar. He's running for governor and all that good stuff. Joining us now to break this whole thing down, Pete Snyder. Pete, a former candidate for lieutenant governor in 2013, came in second to E.W. Jackson. And one thing that the Fräulein has over Pete Snyder is she beat E.W. Jackson in a convention. Second to the Fräulein, Pete also was the finance chairman of the Republican Party of Virginia, leading them out of the financial wilderness. And now joining us now, head of Disruptor Capital, Pete Snyder. Pete, good to have you with us right here on the John Fredericks Radio Network.
Johnny, I'm eating my breakfast of salt in the wound from you and the Fräulein. Every single time you have to mention that. She holds it over my head. I can't imagine. She is a wonderful, wonderful woman, but I can't imagine what it's like to be married to her. If she has one thing on you, she'll just hang it on you all day long. Is that right, Johnny?
Not stop, Pete. Not stop. She never met a hill she didn't die on. She fights every battle right to the death. Unlike me, sometimes I'll just, take two, hit to right. She just fights on every hill. Pete, good to have you with us. Let's talk about this gubernatorial race. Okay, just out, PolitiFact in the Richmond Times-Dispatch giving Corey Stewart a 100% false on his claims that Ed Gillespie was not supportive of President-elect Donald Trump. Now, it's hard to get a 100% false on anything in PolitiFact. I mean, you gotta try to do that, right? So
Johnny, as you know, you've known all the characters and the Star Wars bar that is Virginia politics. You've known all the monsters and characters, and if anyone can get 100% false, it's Corey Stewart, right?
Well, they got 100%. I mean, it's got completely false, right? So I guess, look, you know what? I don't think this gubernatorial nomination, quite frankly, is going to hang on who said what about President-elect Trump during the campaign. And as the article pointed out, Ed said from starting in May that he was going to vote for Trump, not like some that said they were not, like Romney and others. So I'm just not sure that when we go to the polls in June of 17, that how many rallies somebody went to is going to matter. What say you?
John, look, I 100% agree with you. I think it's going to be who is going to be the best person to unite the party, move us forward, and actually take us to victory using conservative values and conservative principles. I mean, that's really it. I mean, the way I view this race that's shaping up for governor is you have a whole lot of people, some of them good folks, but, you have a lot of career politicians that are running for office, and you have someone who, isn't a career politician, someone who has business experience, is going to bring that business experience to the table, someone who's been really, I think, the only true movement conservative in the race. Ed and Kathy Gillespie have been toiling in the trenches of the conservative movement for 30-plus years. So I think it's going to come down to who has the best ideas, who has the best experience. Is it, kind of inside Richmond experience, or is it, coming from the private sector and being able to innovate Virginia? And who's going to win? Who's going to unite our party and win? I'm certain that the Trump administration and President-elect Trump and Vice President-elect Pence are going to be implementing their agenda and working well with Congress and getting a hell of a lot accomplished in the first 100 days. Who's going to be able to carry that forth in Virginia and make sure that we're not slipping behind? John, we're slipping behind North Carolina. We're slipping behind South Carolina when it comes to jobs. On the trajectory that we're on due to Governor McAuliffe and really the liberal policies of the Obama administration shutting down our coal industry, Virginia, more people are fleeing Virginia than coming to Virginia. Right. We got to turn that around, and the way you turn that around is making this a business-friendly environment, tapping into our energy resources, making sure that we are competitive tax-wise, and taxes are lower in Virginia than they are in Maryland. And really getting this economy working.
Well, Pete, let me just ask you this. You got what I believe is going to shake out three candidates in the race. This is my conjecture. I believe that Rob Whitman is likely to be named the chairman of the subcommittee on Sea Power this week. I think if that happens, I don't see him staying in the race. He didn't say that. That's just my complete narrative. So I want to make that clear. So that would leave three people in the race right now: Ed Gillespie, Corey Stewart, and Frank Wagner. Wagner's got a message, right? His message is, I was a businessman. I built companies. I know how the government works. I'm going to create jobs. Stewart's message is, I'm anti-establishment. I'm anti-establishment. I'm anti-establishment. What's Ed's message?
Well, Ed's message is that he is the only one who's not a career politician in that whole group. He is fighting against increased taxes. And again, I tend to stay familiar with things that are happening down in your neck of the woods in Virginia Beach, John. But I think Wagner is making his campaign all about a tax increase in Virginia. I know that Corey Stewart increased taxes in Prince William County. So, I think as a contrast, you're going to see Ed Gillespie having looking to lower taxes in Virginia, make us much more competitive when it comes to our business environment, innovating Virginia, bringing new ideas to the table, and really shaking things up. I mean, this is a guy who is an outsider to Richmond, and I think he has the experience and the temperament to unite our party and have us win again.
Well, speaking of winning, Republicans in Virginia have lost 7 consecutive statewide races. And you look at these 2016 results, and I've said this last week several times. You got 3 cities in Northern Virginia: Alexandria, Fairfax, and Arlington. You live in Alexandria. Those combined 3 cities gave a plurality to Hillary Clinton over Trump of 316,000 votes. So you look at this thing and you say to yourself, how does a Republican win in Virginia with those kind of numbers?
Well, Johnny, it all comes down to the type of campaign and type of candidate that you are. And Ed Gillespie has proven last time he was on the ballot, he nearly shocked the world in beating Mark Warner. And in doing so, he did and performed better in his home court of Northern Virginia, my home court of Northern Virginia, than most Republican candidates do. And if you look at the environment that we're going to be dealing with in 2017, it's going to be an off year. It's going to be a lower turnout environment. It is a mistake to think that the environment is going to be like it was in 2016 and 2012. It's just not the case. That should be more favorable to Republicans. Now, that said, the flip side is Democrats got shellacked. They have nothing nationally. So all of the eyes of the nation are going to be trying to get Ralph Northam over the finish line. And, Ralph Northam is going to really have a difficult dance to do, which is he's going to have to distance himself from the failed policies of Terry McAuliffe and the absolute horrific waste that's been going on in that administration with millions and millions of tax dollars on phony business deals that are somewhat like the green tech deal that Terry hoisted on the taxpayers of Mississippi. And he's also going to have to distance himself from the policies of Hillary Clinton and Tim Kaine. Tim Kaine tried to have the MO of being a fairly moderate, middle-of-the-road guy when he was governor of Virginia. His voting record as senator is as left-wing as they get, and the way he had to contort himself on the campaign trail to be in lockstep with all of Hillary Clinton's fairly radical liberal ideas and policies. I mean, on energy alone, which would gut the energy business in Virginia, Ralph Northam is going to have to navigate all that. So I think Ed Gillespie is really the only candidate in the race who isn't a career politician, isn't in favor of increasing taxes, and has a proven track record where he will do better in vote-rich Northern Virginia, and he has a dynamite message about moving Virginia in the right direction, getting our economy going again. John, you called it from the get-go. You understood fundamentally what Donald Trump was saying and the connection it has with voters, and that was an economic message. Donald Trump won won Michigan and won Pennsylvania with his economic message, and I think Ed Gillespie is going to be able to do the same. When you're out there advocating raising taxes, that's not going to bode well with our voters. they're simply going to reject that. It's not going to get our. It's a bad policy too, as well, John. You've fought, although unfortunately you've been on a lot of sides of tax issues. And your home turf down there in Virginia Beach and Hampton Roads and Chesapeake, you can't have those policies. You can't have an increased tax base down there and hope to attract more jobs. It's just simply not going to work.
Okay, so when you get to November of 2017, right, regardless of who the Republican nominee is for governor, there's going to be a ton of money spent on both sides. And Ralph Northam doesn't have a primary, so he's going to have a free ride. The primary on the Republican side, at least 3, maybe 4, maybe 5 candidates, who knows, going to be very competitive, going to have to spend a lot of money. How do you guys navigate your way through that?
Look, I just think, Ed, first and foremost, you got to win the primary. So Ed Gillespie is focused like a laser beam on making sure that he continues to unite our Republican Party. No one has worked harder in the trenches over the past several years. And, John, you know how hard I worked over the past few years for the party, for our candidates, and how much I traveled. I hate to admit it, but I will, because it's true. Ed Gillespie and Kathy Gillespie worked even harder than I did. I think even harder than Rob Bill did in getting around the Commonwealth. So first, you got to win the primary, and you do that as the true movement conservative in the race, as someone with the best ideas to move our party forward and move our Commonwealth forward. And then in November, I think it's taking that same message and connecting with voters all around the Commonwealth the way Ed Gillespie has. I dare to say that Ed Gillespie's traveled more than our sitting lieutenant governor. Mm-hmm. He's been out there hustling. Ralph Northam, you never hear hide or hair of that guy. He really has been hiding the entire time. And, I don't blame him. I would try to hide from Terry McAuliffe all I could. I'd try to hide from the Hillary Clinton, Tim Kaine ticket. He's going to really have a tough road to hoe, distancing himself from the failed policies of the McAuliffe administration and the liberal, ultra-liberal policies of the Clinton-Kaine ticket.
Okay, so envision a race for me. Vision it out. Gillespie versus Ralph Northam. Let's say you guys win the nomination, July basically through November. Tell me what the campaign would look like.
Well, look, I think we have a ways to go there, John, and but I really think this is fundamentally going to be a campaign of ideas. That's the type of stuff that gets you fired up, I know. And it's the type of stuff that voters want. They want to know, what is your vision for the Commonwealth of Virginia? Are we going to look more like Maryland, which is really Ralph Northam's vision, continued higher taxes, more regulation, and have us look more like, all the states north of us? Or are we going to actually get back into being number one in business for the country, reduce our tax rates, reduce burdensome regulation, get jobs coming back to Virginia, make sure that the graduates of our unbelievable higher ed system are staying in state because they have a reason to stay in state? That's what it's going to look like. There's going to be two very compelling and competing visions. One, making sure that Virginia is competitive again in an economic sense, and the other, are we going to look more like Maryland? That's it. That's how I see it.
Well, the other issue that Lieutenant Governor Northam has to deal with is, for his whole career, he's been looked at as a moderate, but recently he's had to move to stop a progressive challenge. He's had to move way to the left. I think that's going to hurt him.
Well, John, one of the things, because the New York Times and MSNBC and all those clowns were so focused, all anyone wanted to write, even on election day of this year, is the demise of the Republican Party and how we're so splintered and fractured and we're going the way of the dinosaurs, right? You read that countless times about how our days are numbered, demographics are against us. And Ralph Northam, all he's been doing is trying to placate the liberal wing, really, that's taken over the Democratic Party. And he doesn't look at all like the candidate that first ran for state Senate, many moons ago.
Pete Snyder, how do you win this primary? How does Ed Gillespie win in June?
Well, I think first and foremost, John, it's about having a clear and compelling conservative vision for the Commonwealth of Virginia. It's about uniting all factions of the party, which, look, you and I both know that the party has gone through turmoil and over the past few years. Ed has consistently proven that he can take all wings of the party and bring them together. He's the only movement conservative in this race, and he's the only non-career politician, at least as I see it right now. As you and I both know, this race is relatively fluid. People can get in and get out. But I think by being the movement conservative, having a strong, compelling vision for moving our Commonwealth forward and uniting the party, you do that, you win the nomination.
All right. Pete Snyder predicting Ed Gillespie is going to be the nominee. Pete, it's always good to have you.
Johnny, hey, just you called it for Donald Trump years ago. I absolutely believe that Ed Gillespie is going to be our next governor. But as you know, and as Donald Trump did, there's a heck of a lot of hard work in between now and then. So, I love the fact that others in the race are calling themselves the front runner. I think that's fantastic for Ed. Let other people try to take the front runner mantle. But if you keep on putting miles on the car, you keep on shaking hands and having a clear and compelling vision for Virginia and uniting our party, we're going to win this thing.
Well, look, my take right now is Ed Gillespie, is the clear favorite. He's a chalk in this race. I've got him at 3-5, and somebody's going to figure out how to beat him. He'll outspend everybody. He's putting together a great staff. The addition of Matt Moran as his senior communications advisor.
Matt's solid, isn't he?
Rock solid. He also got your political director, Michael Kogar. Great guy. I love Michael to death. So he's certainly putting good people on his team. We'll see what plays out.
Well, I love Michael. He's fantastic. Johnny, we appreciate you continuing to tell the truth and making sure that not only the country but the Commonwealth is heading in the right direction. As you can see, Elvis Snyder, my dog, just wanted to weigh in as well, and he wants to make America great.
Elvis wants to make America great again. There you go. All right.
As does B.
As does your little. I got to tell you, your daughter, Pete Snyder, is the most adorable little thing. The picture you sent with a little blue bonnet in her hair is so precious. That she is adorable.
I think I told you this before, Johnny. But about 2 weeks before the election, Mrs. Snyder had B on video and asked her, said, if today, if you had to choose between Hillary Clinton, the Democratic nominee, and Donald Trump, the Republican nominee, B, who would you vote for? And 4 times straight to camera 2 weeks before the election, B. Snyder said, Trump, Trump, Trump. So you called it a year prior, even though everyone else in the world was saying that there's no way that Donald Trump can win. B. Snyder went on record 2 weeks prior, and I got to tell you, you two would make a potent combination.
There's no question, and a good thing your daughter takes after her mom. It's all good, Pete. It's all good. Thanks for being with us, man.
Thank you, Johnny. Take care, buddy.
Always good to have you with us.